Hi guys, greetings one and all, and welcome back to the Time Bomb channel. Of course, with myself, the Bombardier, and yep, as you can see on the table, we have another green box. And yep, as the vid title suggests, it's the Rolex Daytona chronograph, and that's reference 116518LN. The channel very lucky to have had this watch shared with us for an overview. But yeah, I won't call it a review. I'll call it an overview because the review has already been done by history on these watches. So yeah, far be it from me to sort of jump into that. But anyway, I have to say to start off with that I've worked with a number of watches in my time, as can be expected, but few of them I think are as striking as this one. There are many watches that I look at and I'm like, dude, that's a beast, or dude, that's awesome. But this one is striking, it's stunning. I almost want to say it's kind of majestic, and that coming from someone who doesn't do royalty. So let's get the box open. And just make sure that we've got a little focus here on the camera. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit as well. Quite a beastie, isn't it? That's a stunning timepiece, if ever there was. Alright, I'm just going to pause there while I get gloved up, and then we can crack on. Alright, so let's crack on. So, start off with some basic specs. What we're looking at, obviously, then is a 40mm diameter, all made from 18 karat gold. The case is what they call their standard monoblock mid, which then comes with that clean screw down case back. The only details being that bezeling around that case back, and then also this very clean vertical brushing that you can see on the case back there. I mean, yeah, that's some quality craftsmanship, if ever there was. I guess maybe, personal thoughts, they could have added a further complication with the exhibition case back. Obviously, it's going to add a little bit more depth to the overall watch, but it might have been nice to see that 4130 movement at work. So yeah, touching on the 4130. Clearly, it comes with 44 jewels, and I think when it was introduced, it was a bit of a game changer, to say the least, for Rolex. For me personally, I'm thinking it's arguably one of the best movements that they've created in a while. That parachrom hairspring inside, adding to the shock resistance and the anti-magnetic property, etc. 72-hour power reserve. That's a quality movement to have in your watch, no matter who it's made by. You then get 100-meter water resistance with the watch. I think putting it pretty much at the limits of a sports functional watch. But again, I don't see you wearing this one in the swimming pool. maybe you do. Personally, I've never really been a huge fan of yellow gold. I find it far too blingy. So yeah, it would, for me personally, it would be the white gold version. But even so, heart in hand, I have to say, as I said right at the beginning, this timepiece is absolutely stunning. But yeah, for me, it would be the white gold. I'd find it more usable on a daily basis. Just goes with my personal taste. Anyway, this colourway, the gold and black with the red, obviously is a firm nod of respect to the John Player Specials. I think it comes with enough of its own sort of update aspects, sort of changes that Rolex have brought in, that prevent it from being a homage piece to those JPS versions. I think what you're getting with this is something very contemporary, but still with those very solid, evident vintage tones built in. On the slight negative aspect, I guess we might find a few dissenters in the ranks who would turn around and say, "What? Only a rubber strap, no bracelet, no leather, etc., etc." And I think I kind of agree, because yeah, I think they kind of really should have given you both, you know, or at least the option to purchase both. However, let's focus on the bracelet a little bit for a second, because it does bring some qualities of its own to the party. So the first thing that I wanted to mention was sort of on the back here you have like what they call bellows. I don't know, I wouldn't describe them as being bellows, more sort of like flanges, which then create, you know, like a little air pocket, which is then going to add, you know, for venting on hot days. But they also then cushion that fit onto your wrist, either side of the or the extension of those lugs. You know, preventing top wobble on the watch. I mean, I'm wearing the Kuraburi today. That doesn't really have any top wobble, but as I say, what it will do then is just cushion that there, adding to the further fit, keeping the watch firmly in place, but then also extending the possibilities, I think, for wrist size also. If I'm not mistaken, then you've actually then got, so is it titanium alloy bands actually running through both sides of the rubber, again making the whole thing pretty darned indestructible. Bizarrely, Rolex does call this strap a bracelet. I don't get that, but I think what it does do certainly is give the watch an overall very sporty feel. And I think that it really does balance the gold, as I say, that black gold theme running the whole way through. And I think finally that rubber, what it does do is it stops the watch from becoming a full-on golden ingot, which I think would take its use into a whole different sphere. I mentioned about the fact that I can't remember if I remember to mention it now. I'm just going through my head again. I read somewhere that you can't buy these straps separately, which I found a little bit bizarre. If you guys know differently, please do let me know down below. Onto the dial detail. It is a busy dial. I don't think I need to be telling you that. I think you can quite clearly see that for yourselves. Moot point. Do they need to tell us it's Swiss made at the bottom at 6 o'clock there? I think we all know that by now, don't we? Anyway, I do really like the extended, very fine, long red second hand there. It reaches perfectly into those minute markers, second markers, or however you want to call them, into the top. I think really nice detail. You've then obviously, I'll pop up some macro shots in a bit so you can see this slightly better. But your minute markers are obviously then in that same red as the second hand, and just below the hands there in the centre, you've then got in a further red colour the Daytona script, just to remind you of its heritage. If I'm not mistaken, the early Daytona chronos back in the 60s used a black plexiglass in the bezels. Very positive step up here to using that Cerachrome. It works beautifully. That black in the dial, in the bezel, is a really deep positive black, and it's a little bit shiny. And then obviously marked up with that tachymetric scale in gold. Really absolutely stunning. Moreover, I think that the slight shine to the bezel then contrasts really nicely with the matte black that you get on the dial. You also then get like a matte gold on these subdials. And it's not the usual sunburst that you would see. Again, I'll pop up some macros at the end of the video just so you can get the full detail on those subdials. I'm kind of glad it doesn't have a date complication. I'm not a big fan of date complications anyway, but I think it would have really over-cluttered the dial, and then obviously removed the symmetry of those triple pandas. Onto the side, you've got three. Oops, sorry, focus dropped out. You've got three through here. These are all screwed down. Unscrew to tick off. As I say, brand new watch, still with its plastic, so I'm not going to be fiddling around with that. Again, see if we just pick that up. Signed crown there in the middle, and it's a triple lock. And you know that it's a triple lock because you can just see on here, you get those 3 little dots, and the one in the middle being a fraction bigger gives you that indication of that triple lock seal. Down the sides, on the other side, you've got these very, very, very sleek lines as it just sort of drips down into the lugs. I think as well, kind of interesting that you've got this almost faux solid end link stuck in between those lugs. I think preventing any spacing between there. I picked up on that on a review that I did a couple of months ago as well. The first Daytonas, while I'm talking about the history of them, were introduced back in the 1960s. But as many of you will probably be aware, the chronos were not as successful in the beginning, with the Speedmasters outselling them on a massive scale. But a couple of factors set about changing the identity of the chronos, and obviously one of those being Paul Newman. His Daytona chrono, I think, being one of the most famous watches ever sold at auction, something going for some crazy price. Was it $17-18 million? And clearly with Paul Newman as one of your poster boys, then it's pretty easy to understand why the Daytona chronos are magnets for cool seekers, because this is a watch that does shout out, hey, look at me, I'm uber cool. Straight out of the fridge cool. Nowadays, I think the chrono Daytonas are the stuff of legend and pretty damn hard to buy. I think there's also a lot of contrast here. You get something quite sporty, but with this very heavy gold vintage. It's contemporary, and I really do wonder if these updates to the Daytona chrono are Rolex actually having a pop at the Omega market. I'll finish up with a couple of macro shots as promised here. As I say, the lens on this camera doesn't really do justice to the detail. So, yep, a little bit of elevator music while we look at those macro shots. And okay, guys, that's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed the vid. Thanks again, massive thanks to the owner of this watch for allowing me to do the overview. It's not often I get my hands on a watch of this value, and really quite a beautiful piece. Anyway, okay guys, thanks very much indeed for your time and for viewing. If you can subscribe and like, that would be brilliant. Really will help the channel upgrade some of our equipment and help to bring you further reviews in the future. Anyway guys, until next time, this is your host, the Bombardier, signing off. Cheers.